There are moments in life when a single sentence can change everything. When the wrong words slip out of your mouth and you can almost feel her pulling away, not physically, but emotionally, quietly, invisibly, like something inside her just turned cold. And the worst part? You don't realize the damage until it's already done, until her eyes stop shining the same way, until her laughter feels forced, until the space between you grows wider than silence itself. Tonight, I want you to imagine something. You're standing with her in a dimly lit room. Her perfume hangs in the air, soft but sharp enough to cut into memory. She's close enough that you can almost hear her heartbeat echoing in the quiet. And then you say something you shouldn't have said, something small, something casual, something you thought didn't matter. But to her, it changed everything. That's the thing about women. They don't always react with words, but with shifts. Subtle psychological movements you feel more than you see. A slight glaze in her eyes, a soft withdrawal in her tone, a slow fading of the warmth she once wrapped you in. It's like watching a candle die out. First the flame flickers, then it shrinks, and then suddenly, nothing. And you stand there wondering, what just happened? What did I do? But deep inside, a part of you already knows. Welcome to Female Code Unlocked, where we go beneath the surface, beneath the smiles, beneath the stories she'll never tell you, into the psychology most men never see. If you're ready to understand desire, connection, and the quiet laws that govern female attraction, then breathe in, slow down, and sink into this moment with me. And if you're new here, consider subscribing, not because everyone says it, but because what you learn here might save you from losing the woman you want, without even realizing why. Now, let's go deeper, because there are things you should never tell a woman, not because they're forbidden, not because they're dramatic, but because they dissolve attraction in ways that are almost surgical, clean, silent, invisible, but final. You don't notice it at first. It begins with a look, one she tries to hide. A look that says, "You weren't supposed to say that. Not to me, not like this." Her shoulders stiffen. Her breath changes. Her energy drops slightly, but enough for your instincts to whisper, "Something's wrong." She'll continue the conversation like nothing happened. She'll smile, nod, respond. But something inside her begins to retreat, a step at a time. And in that retreat lies the truth no one tells you. A woman doesn't stop wanting you in a moment. She stops piece by piece, layer by layer. Each time you reveal something that makes her feel less safe, less admired, less drawn to you. Sometimes it's your insecurities spilling out in fragile sentences. Sometimes it's your jealousy disguised as care. Sometimes it's your need for reassurance, your craving for validation, your fear of losing her crashing through your words like an emotional storm. And she hears all of it, not the words, but the weakness underneath them. Women don't lose attraction because of what you say. They lose it because of what your words imply, about your confidence, your emotional control, your sense of self. You could say something in 5 seconds that rewrites her entire perception of you. A confession spoken too early, a weakness shown too loudly, a comparison that tastes like desperation, a truth you felt safe enough to share, but she wasn't ready to hear. And in that moment, she doesn't hate you. She doesn't judge you. She simply recalibrates who you are in her mind. And the version she creates is a little less magnetic than before. Attraction doesn't die in flames. It dies in whispers. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the moment it happens. It usually starts with one of those quiet truths she'll never admit out loud. A woman decides how deeply she can desire you based on how deeply she can trust you. Not trust in the moral sense, but trust in your emotional stability, your inner strength, your self-possession. She trusts that you won't fall apart the moment she pulls back, that you won't crumble if she doesn't respond instantly, that you won't reveal the parts of yourself that should remain earned, not offered on a silver platter out of fear. Because here's the part most men never learn until it's too late. A woman is attracted to the version of you that can stand on his own feet, even in the darkness, even in uncertainty, even when she steps away just to see if you'll follow too quickly. And that's why there are certain things you never tell her. Not because they're shameful, not because they're wrong, but because they twist the image she holds of you, slowly, like a knife turning in soft cloth. You ever notice how a woman becomes quieter when a man overshares the wrong truth? Not the deep, intimate truths shared after trust is built, but the fragile, insecure truths that scream, "Please see me, please validate me, please don't leave me." She hears them, and something inside her shifts. It's not that she doesn't want your vulnerability, she does, but she wants the kind that comes from strength, not the kind that spills out because you're emotionally collapsing in front of her. Think about it. You're sitting with her. The night is soft, the air still, the room warm. She's looking at you with that curious softness only women possess. And then you say something subtle, something seemingly harmless, yet it carries the scent of fear. Maybe you tell her you don't think you're good enough for her, or that you're scared she'll find someone better, or that you've never been wanted the way you want her to want you. You speak it, thinking honesty will bring you closer. But to her, it creates distance. Not because she's cruel, but because you've unknowingly placed the weight of your self-worth in her hands. And no woman wants to carry that. She wants a man who chooses her, not a man who clings to her like she's the last breath he has. There's another moment, another thing men say without realizing it's killing the energy between them. It happens when you try to make her jealous, when you casually mention other women's interest, when you think a subtle comparison will spark desire, but instead, she reads it as insecurity. Because a confident man doesn't use competition to prove his value, he is the value. The truth is simple. A woman's attraction doesn't respond to pressure, or fear, or emotional leakage. It responds to presence. Your calmness, your steadiness, your ability to feel deeply but speak intentionally, holding your emotions like fire. Controlled, warm, magnetic, not raging out of your hands. When you tell her the wrong things, it's usually because you want reassurance. Reassurance that you matter, reassurance that she still cares, reassurance that she won't leave. But every time you seek reassurance from her, you unknowingly push her away. Because the moment she becomes responsible for your emotional grounding, she stops feeling romantic attraction and starts feeling something else. Obligation. And obligation is the quietest killer of desire. Women are intuitive creatures. They feel shifts before they understand them. They react to energy before they analyze the words. She may not tell you what you said that changed everything, but trust me, she felt it. And in those small moments, those tiny slips, those unintended revelations, she begins rewriting her story with you. The version of you she once admired starts fading like an old photograph left too long in the sun. Not because you're not worthy, not because you're not enough, but because you revealed the wrong parts too soon, or too desperately. And the cold truth? She remembers every sentence that made her heart beat faster, and every sentence that made it slow down. There's a moment every man remembers. A moment when he says something he thinks is harmless, maybe even honest, maybe even heartfelt. And the room changes. Not dramatically, not loudly, just subtly. Her breathing gets quieter. Her eyes lose a degree of warmth. Her body shifts, ever so slightly, like she's pulling her soul an inch away from you, even if her body hasn't moved at all. Most men never notice it, but you do. Somewhere inside, you feel that tiny sting, the quiet tearing of a connection you were trying so hard to build, and that is the cost of saying the wrong thing to a woman. Not rejection, not conflict, but a slow erosion of the version of you she once desired. See, a woman doesn't fall for a man because of his words. She falls because of the energy behind them. The gravity in his presence, the quiet confidence in his pauses, the emotional self-possession she feels wrapped around him like invisible armor. When you speak from strength, she feels safe. When you speak from fear, she feels burdened. That's why there are certain truths you never spill too early, things you never admit when your emotions are overflowing, sentences you never hand her before she's earned the right to hold them. Because here's the dark psychological truth you were never taught. Women are attracted to your mystery as much as your honesty, to your restraint as much as your affection, to your silence as much as your words. A man who speaks too soon becomes predictable. A man who reveals too much becomes unanchored. A man who confesses every fear becomes emotionally naked in a way she didn't ask for. And emotional nakedness is only attractive when she feels secure enough to stand there with you. But here's where everything gets even more complicated. Sometimes the wrong thing you tell her isn't even about insecurity. Sometimes it's the kind of truth that makes her feel like you're testing her, or pushing her, or forcing her into a depth she didn't sign up for yet. You ever tell a woman something heavy too early? A life trauma, a dark confession, a chaotic piece of your past, something you wanted to be raw and authentic, but she wasn't ready to carry it? You didn't mean to overwhelm her. You were trying to connect, trying to show depth, trying to prove you're not one of those surface-level men she's used to. But to her, it felt like you pulled her into the deep end before she even dipped her feet in the water. Women don't reject depth. They reject unearned depth. And then there's another one. The silent killer of attraction most men overlook. Telling her too clearly, too quickly, how much power she has over your emotions. Not love, not affection, not admiration, but dependence. The moment she senses you're emotionally leaning on her more than you're standing on your own, something inside her stiffens. Not because she doesn't care, but because she wasn't built to anchor a man's entire emotional world. No woman wants to be the pillar a man collapses against. She wants to be the place he rests after standing tall on his own. You can tell her you want her. You can tell her she matters. You can tell her she's special. But the moment your words say, "I'm afraid of losing you," or "You're the only thing keeping me together," or "I need you to feel okay," you'll watch her soul step back, even if her body stays close. Because attraction isn't built on need, it's built on desire. Warm, soft, organic desire. And desire withers every time you hand her the responsibility of holding your emotional balance. She wants a man with edges, not a man who dissolves in her hands. She wants a man with direction, not a man waiting for her to guide him. She wants a man who can feel deeply, but who never loses himself in those feelings. And the moment your words tell her otherwise, the chemistry shifts. Something dims. Something breaks. And you can feel it, even if she never says a word. By now, you should be beginning to feel the weight of what you say, the silent power of words left unsaid. Every syllable you release into her world carries gravity. Every confession, every joke, every attempt at connecting is either weaving her closer to you or unraveling the thread of attraction she once held for you. And it's rarely dramatic. There are no explosions, no arguments, just a quiet, almost invisible shifting. A temperature change in the air you both breathe. And in that subtle shift, you'll notice her eyes searching for something, perhaps the man she thought she knew, or perhaps the warmth she once felt. And if your words misstep, that warmth fades, leaving only a faint echo where desire once lived. Attraction isn't a game of logic. It isn't built on honesty alone. It's a delicate architecture of mystery, presence, and self-possession. The strongest words aren't always the most truthful. They are the words that resonate with her psychology, that spark curiosity, that maintain your boundaries while drawing her in closer without fear or need. Women are not puzzles to be solved. They are energies to be felt, worlds to be understood, and hearts to be approached with both care and subtle mastery. And when you violate that invisible rhythm, when you hand her your insecurities, your fears, or your emotional dependence before she's ready, you dismantle the very thing that made her want you in the first place. But there is hope. There is always a way to recalibrate, to step back into the presence and confidence that naturally magnetizes her attention. It starts with awareness, with silence as a tool, with observation as a skill, with patience as your armor. Learn the art of timing your truths, of shaping your words like a sculptor shaping stone, each one precise, intentional, and purposeful. The man who masters this, who speaks with both honesty and restraint, becomes irresistible. Not because he's perfect, not because he's flawless, but because he carries himself like a man who knows the power of what is left unsaid and the quiet gravity of his presence alone. Remember, attraction is fragile. Desire is delicate. Words are weapons, and silence is power. And if you walk away from this understanding, if you begin to notice how subtle missteps can erode the pull she feels, you'll start to wield your own emotional energy like a force that can ignite or extinguish at will. You'll realize that what most men think is connection is often the undoing of connection. That what seems honest to you can feel dangerous to her. That restraint, self-possession, and emotional awareness are the greatest keys to unlocking the heart you desire. So hold your words, guard your truths, speak when it serves the moment, not when it serves your need. Observe her reactions, respect the invisible dance, and above all, remember this. A woman's desire is not given, it is earned, slowly, intentionally, with mastery of both presence and subtle psychology. When you understand this, you will never again fear losing her to a careless sentence or the quiet death of attraction you never saw coming. This is Female Code Unlocked, where the hidden rules of desire become visible. If you learned something tonight, if your mind is stirring and your awareness has shifted, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the subtle truths most men will never understand. And remember, the most powerful words you can speak are often the ones you never say.